Hi guys, I'm Kate Moyle. I am a psychosexual and relationship therapist and a psychosexologist, and I am working with the Intimology Institute to do this talk for you about sex and endometriosis. So the focus of what I will be talking about will be how you can help and design your sex life around endometriosis and what you can do to help yourself reduce painful sex. So one of the things that I'm trying to do when I'm working with people is we redefine sex. So we find a way of making sex pleasurable and enjoyable and working for that person again. Now, everyone's pain is different. The location of the pain might be different. And so what we do is we take the pressure off penetrative sex and we put it on non-penetrative sex. So we know that the clitoris is highly sensitive, has 8,000 nerve endings, and that clitoral stimulation can still be really pleasurable for women who have endometriosis. So we try and encourage a couple, if it's a couple I'm working with, or an individual, if it's on their own, to take the pressure off and take the attention away from penetrative sex and to focus on mutual masturbation or using sex toys or pleasure products. Lubricant is an absolute must. I'll come on to that in a minute. And to work out different ways to feel closer and intimate and physically intimate, and where the goal is always pleasure and fun. So if the goal is always pleasure, then what we're understanding is that we can break away from this linear model of sex which we've always been taught, which is very penetration focused but also very heteronormative. So we are trying to kind of move to a more circular sexual model which is more play based, focused on fun and enjoyment and pleasure, and that includes everything from kissing to touching to playing to mutual masturbation to oral sex. Penetrative sex can be in there as well, but we also want to help people to mix it up a bit in a way that works for them and works for them as a couple. So one of the main things that couples struggle with around their sex lives is communication when they have a sexual pain condition or a condition like endometriosis. And that's because we're not taught how to talk about sex, but it becomes really personal and really difficult to communicate about clearly. So another thing that is really important is that you're able to discuss with your partner what's going on, how you're feeling, things that you can try. So there are products for men, which are things like a Tenga egg, which actually mean that women can pleasure their male partners in a different way if they're unable to have penetrative sex. But it's also about saying to them, this isn't anything personal. We need to work on this together. It's not about me rejecting you. And the difficulty is lots of relationships break down because of the lack of communication and the ability not to work together, rather than actually the lack of sex. So one of the biggest things that actually I work with couples who have sexual conditions or conditions like endometriosis with is the breakdown in communication around sex and intimacy. And this is because quite often, because sex is painful, we pull away from sex completely. We don't want to have sex. We don't want to talk about sex. We feel that it's really personal or that it's having a negative impact on the relationship. So communication is a massive part of that, and it's really important to talk to our partners about how we can be creative with our sex lives, how we can have pleasure and fun together in ways that might not cause us pain, but also to tell them when they're hurting us without them feeling that it might be something about them or that you are rejecting them in some way. So what is really normal is that lots of women who have conditions like endometriosis or painful sex describe a lack of desire. Now what we understand is actually that this is responsive to the situation. So we understand that particularly female desire is context dependent and responsive. So if what has happened is that sex has been repeatedly painful, then what you do is you link the definition of sex with pain, and that means that it's something we don't want to go towards, we actively avoid, we try and minimize our opportunity to be in situations where we have sex or might be approached for sex by our partner. And this can really have an impact on relationships, but also how women feel about themselves. One of the important things to also remember is that desire, which is the want to be sexual, which is separate from arousal, which is the physical ability to kind of be ready for sex, are two different constructs. And what we understand about particularly female desire is that it is responsive and context dependent. So what lots of people report when they have conditions like endometriosis is they don't ever want to have sex. They have a lack of desire, even if they love their partner, even if they feel really close to them. And this is not really a surprise when we understand that if sex is painful and not a positive experience, that we stop wanting it as much. And that's why if we can change things, what we can do is we can also increase levels of desire again by making it a enjoyable experience. So there are certain products that I recommend that women with endometriosis use. One is lubricant. Now I recommend these, which are the Yes Organics. This is the Double Glide set. They are completely natural, completely organic, and so what you know is there is nothing in there that will cause you any extra irritation, pain, and difficulties. And what you should also know is that you can only use water-based, not oil-based lubricants with condoms. So a really important part of sexuality is sensuality, and a lot of this is about getting to know our bodies better. So for couples it might be about playing with massage, for individuals it might be kind of exploring their body in the shower or in bed, but kind of understanding like head to toe where the different sensitive spots on the body are and how they can offer you pleasure, and including them as a part of your sexuality routine.